called the patron saint of the passerby. Isn't that great? The patron saint of the bystander. The bystander, shaken, awakened, compelled to bear the burden of the cross when he didn't think he had time, need, energy, interest to do so. Isn't that sort of the ultimate thing of the passerby, bystander person? Maybe it's us. I don't have the time, the need, the energy, the interest to get involved. It doesn't pertain to me. Enacting that Enemy Alien Act of 1798, which got enacted yesterday, doesn't pertain to me. It's just for those Venezuelan immigrants, we might say. Although I want you to know that is the act that incarcerated my mother, my grandmother, all of our family in 1942. Or we might say having jobs cut and say National Park Service doesn't pertain to me until I think about caring for the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the sky. What about people living on the street? Doesn't pertain to me until I get to know those people at casitas and I begin to care for them. In so many ways, the assignment of Cyrene is me. And maybe sometimes you too. Someone who, for whatever reason, is awakened into standing up, speaking up, rising up. And we, Simon of Cyrene, might do so. But in what manner? We might get up, okay. We might help somebody, okay. But in what manner? How will we do what we are called to do, or inspired to do, or compelled to do? If I had been Simon of Cyrene, I would have not wanted to take, quite seriously, I would not have wanted to take the time and effort and energy for this person who seemed to be the enemy of the government. And I would have been told to do this by the guard right there in front of my children. I would have been humiliated and made to feel so subservient in front of little Alexander and Rufus, who, by the way, tradition says later became missionaries in the church. Maybe I would have begun my task with anger, with resentment. Can you imagine me with anger or resentment? Okay, don't laugh too much. I may have begun with questions, maybe a sense of victimization, maybe even grossed out by someone the government has beaten and tormented. His sweat, his blood, his smell would be getting on me. Plus, the cross is heavy. Maybe it is 88 pounds. Who knows? It seems like more. But then I also have to imagine, as these artists have coming, so I would imagine coming so close to Jesus. He, no one is that close to Jesus. Being in such proximity, having to touch him, having to touch his pain. Yes, getting his blood and sweat and smell on me, but then in time, seeing him and just feeling him and seeing him see me, really see me. And that would change. I gotta believe that would change my victimization, my subservience, my humiliation. And I would realize his need for me, my need for him, but his need for me to be there. And that would really make me want to be there, to bear the burden of the cross. There's a German priest painter, Father Sieger Koder, and he paints this. This is his understanding of Jesus and Simon of Cyrene. This may be one of my favorite renderings of this particular story in the Bible. Here he paints this, they're sharing the burden of the cross. One writer named, inspired by Chagall, with strong colors. You see that. And chunky figures. All of his figures in all of his paintings. I got to look at his paintings some more. There, and if you want to look it up online, but not right now, Koder. But all of his paintings have chunky figures, very rustic and bright. His paintings, she says, are earthy yet spiritual, and they really render his commitment to the social gospel, meaning they show Jesus caring for and people, being with the people of God, being at one with the people. This painting of Coder's of Simon of Cyrene with Jesus, you kind of don't know whose hands are whose, and you have to look really hard at who is who. And I had to think, okay, so Jesus is supposed to be in purple, but it's red, and it probably is the red, and because of there are blood stain red on his forehead, so that's probably where the crown of thorns was, going into his skin. And so I have to kind of look at that. Um, and but here Koder is trying to say they are becoming one. It's clear that Jesus needs Simon of Cyrene to help him carry the cross. And it's his cross and the cross of those suffering in this world. Last Sunday morning, 1:30 a.m. Okay, I made it here by church, but it was 1:30 a.m. The fire alarm went off in our building where I live. I live downtown, and I live on the 13th floor. The alarm was loud. It was incessant. It basically said, "There's been a fire reported, and get out. Don't take the elevator. Get out. Go by the stair." And now you all know that husband Steve has been sick. 2 weeks ago, he could not walk. So he's up walking now, but he said, "I don't know about 13 flights of stairs." And I said, the cheerleader, "Okay, let's try." And he was heroic in going down. And so, like there's a banister going down. And so that is the way we went down the stairs. I was in the front, so I could break his, but the idea was there that I could break his fall as he went down. And we get to the 10th floor. At this time, I'm starting to smell smoke. So I know we need to leave. And so he's struggling. I said, "Okay, let's go to 9.5. Okay." We get to the 3rd floor, and he says, "I can't. I can't. I'm smelling more smoke." And I'm thinking, "You can." And so let's try just a little more. Let's go a half floor, because they're in half floors. Okay. We get to the 1st floor. We still have to go down a little hallway to get out of the building. And he says, "I can't. I'm lightheaded. My legs are going to collapse. I need to lean against the wall." So I'm trying to take him over to a wall, and he says, "No, this wall." I didn't want a wall there, but okay, that's a good wall. And then, you know what? There was a woman and her mother behind us walking, and I kept saying, "Go around us. It's okay, go around us." And they said, "No, we're going to be here." And there was another man behind them, and I said, "Go around us. It's okay," because we're all smelling the smoke. We know. And he's like, "No, no." Now, I know that we need to keep moving, and he says, "I cannot." So I come over by his shoulder, and I'll come be Steve for a minute, but stay down there because he's short. No. And he's there, and so I'm like, "Okay, put your arm around me." And the physical therapist in the house is probably going, "Oh my gosh." So anyways, so I'm like, "Lean on me. It's okay. I'm dying." But okay, and the man from back there comes and takes his arm and says, "No, let me." And there's that. And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to go over to the other side and take this." Well, it turns out there's another man coming in because he's waiting for his sister and mother to come down. He's waiting right there at the right time. And he hurries in and he takes the other, and you see what happened there. You see. And I was like, oh my gosh, where are these? And I had just been studying. Okay, probably the sermon wasn't done and I was still working on pictures or something. But anyway, I had just been thinking about this particular Coder painting. And I thought, this is Coder's painting all over again. That people are becoming one, people who don't know each other. Uh, and um, they are, they're helping one another. The three men did not previously know one another. We made it outside. We learned names and floors. Oh, you're on the 10th floor. You're on the 11th floor. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, you are our new best friends. I'm still cheerleading. And now, not only did this threesome move in such unity to the outside, they also, when the coast was clear, and there had been a fire on the 12th floor, it was their kitchen fire, and no one got hurt. But when the coast was clear, they helped Steve and me make it back to the 13th floor inside our home. These were angels. These were Simons of Cyrene. These were bystanders. When I said, oh, thank you, and one guy smiled and he just said, of course, I'm glad to help. They were literally awakened at 1:30 in the morning. They came out, they saw a need, they responded to the need, and they responded with such compassion and care and a sense of oneness. Simpatico is the word I thought of. Not with, oh my gosh, you're somebody I help, darn it. I help this pitiful guy, but responded more with that simpatico. In some sense, I was seeing then, together again, like Coder's painting, not knowing who is holding on to whom in this particular photograph, right? Who is holding up? Who's supporting whom? When in need, all are one. I saw this painting again this past week. Normal, regular people, bystanders, becoming at one with others. Uh, did you know, but I didn't know this, but when you describe someone as Cyrenian, you're talking about that person or that community of people as being willing to take upon themselves the burden and suffering of another person. And it's not like you have to be all maudlin about, oh my God, yeah. And bear someone's smell and sweat and blood, although you might have to do that, and or smell smoke, although you might have to do that. This past week, we had what I like to say, and I said it earlier today, our first second harvest gathering. And it seemed like it was not going to work out because it was raining cats and dogs outside. Instead of setting up outside like we were supposed to, we went into the fellowship hall. We had the opportunity of being in the fellowship. We had the space of being in the fellowship hall. And it was a new place. It was an unfamiliar place for a lot of the people who came because it was the first time that it had been there. And you know, uh, we were all as we got together and set it all up. Other people did it. I just hung out and cheerleaded. But we were all simpatico with Second Harvest and the families who came for food. The fellowship hall became a beautiful, and you can kind of see it, but not really just feel the spirit of it. But it became a beautiful market of mostly fresh food and joy and generosity. It wasn't like, okay, don't take too much. It was very generous and beautiful. Like I say, 126 families came, plus all the volunteers gathered in this 2 hour period. And when you have, I mean, I really wasn't thinking about it, but when you have, you know, what, 5 pounds of potatoes for your family and some onions and cucumbers, and you got a gallon of milk and you have a dozen apples. How many apples were y'all giving out? Somebody had those. Those, yeah, like you were giving out a dozen apples. But you know, when you are doing that, that's really hard because you're trying to hold the weight of all of that, and it's really hard for the elders, and especially hard for the parents also holding children. So there were a couple of people with wagons. Majid and Kevin had wagons, and they were going to overloaded people and just saying, "Can I help you?" And it was so great. They were, and then they would help the wagon go to waiting vehicles in the parking lot. And it was raining cats and dogs while this was all going on, and our wagon people were just going, "Glad to help." And the people receiving the food were like, "Really?" They, our wagon people were not compelled to do this, but they said, "Of course, I'm glad to help." Now, you all know that I am strong, right? I am a woman. But as I was struggling with do the grocery bags, and I didn't have kids, and I don't think I'm that elder, but I didn't have kids, and I'm struggling. Somebody came up to me with a cart, Colleen, and said, "What are you doing? Use this." And then someone else came and helped me take that cart to the car as I was going to carry that over to another family who recently got placed into permanent housing. You know, someone wrote, Christ needs us to help him carry his cross. And this just we can kind of say, okay, great, that's a Bible Times thing to say. Christ needs us to help carry the cross, but it's Bible Times. It already got done. Thank you, Simon of Cyrene, for doing it. And that's it. That's the story, and we're glad to know it about, and really wish that you would become a saint. But thank you very much. But the writing continues. Christ needs us to help him carry his cross, to help bear the crosses of those suffering in this world. Jesus needs us to help him because the cross, be the bearer of the crosses of those who are now suffering in this world. And this saint of passerbys not only exemplifies someone waking up from that passerby kind of haze that we get to standing up and taking action, but he also exemplifies how will we take up the cross? In what manner? With what heart? One person says it's not will we bear it, but more how will we bear it? With what manner? With what attitude? With what heart? I would say, let us go out and bear the crosses. Oh, yeah, great. I really want to go bear crosses now. Yeah. Or, great, great. I am glad to be there for you who need some help in bearing a burden. I am glad to be there with you. I am glad to bear a cross of Christ out in this world with Christ and for Christ. God, please bless us as we go out. Say this with me, Lord, show me who I can serve and befriend today. Who needs your help? Your love. May I be your hands and feet today. Let us stand and ask for that blessing as we go forth, because we're going to need blessing as we go forth. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace right now and forevermore. Amen.